This episode would have been more fitting last week when it was 60 degrees in Pittsburgh as opposed to some snow flurries throughout the week this week. But pitchers and catchers have reported down there in Pirate City in Florida. So we're going to celebrate the occasion today. I don't wear pineapple shirts often, mostly because upside-down pineapples are associated with swingers, and I am not one of them. But anyway, it's Nick, it's Ethan, joining you for a very special edition of Stranded in Pittsburgh, the Pitchers and Catchers Report Special, which that will be the only time I refer to it as that in this episode, because I don't know if you noticed, but that's a little bit of a mouthful. But Ethan, thanks for joining me today. We usually have Nate and I here making fun of you for missing out, but tonight it's Nate's turn to get made fun of.
Yeah, it's good to be back after a week hiatus for me, and I can't but help notice the pineapple Hawaiian shirt.
Thank
Came
you.
out very festive, even though it's very cold down here. Everyone's down in Bradenton, getting acclimated to that nice weather down there. Pitchers and catchers in their second full day today. Just a lot to talk about. A lot of crazy stuff going around, not just the Pirates team, but on the outskirts in the social media realm as well. And I know we're gonna talk about that a lot. So it's a lot to talk about. A lot of exciting things. A lot of things that shouldn't really matter that much, but here we are, and it's gonna happen. And can I finally say baseball season is officially back?
It is here. It is here. There's something really freeing about the Pirates season starting because you want them to do good, and it's frustrating when they're incompetent or when things aren't working out the right way because the organization's inept sometimes. And yeah, it's frustrating, but it's also freeing. Like there's no expectations with this team almost ever. Like this year is a year I'm actually genuinely really excited to see what happens, and they could still win 60 games, and I wouldn't be that surprised.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there because, yeah, those like guys like Paul Skeens, Henry Davis. Obviously, Skeens is going to start in the minor leagues. Let's just get that out of the way right there. He's going to start in the minor leagues. We all know that. I think anyone that thinks he's going to start in the major leagues is just completely lost their mind if they think that's gonna actually happen. But yeah, but for guys like Henry Davis, Nick Gonzalez, those types of guys, it's gonna be interesting to see how they continue to grow and develop over the course of this year, especially Henry Davis, with the handling of his development as a catcher and as a player at the major league level. I'm really excited to see him and how he grows and develops. Also, Roansy Contreras and guys like that. There's expectations this year. I won't say there's no expectations for this team. There are expectations. This team should be on their way to competing for a wild card spot at the very least, especially after the improvement that they saw last year when a swing of 10 to 12 games could have boosted their odds and boosted their chances of getting that wild card spot. So I won't say there's no expectations, and we're just excited to watch this season. I think there are expectations here on the table, and it's going to be interesting to see how that younger talent develops because really that's what the Pirates are banking on is big bank, by the way, big bank. That's what they're banking on. They're banking on that talent development, and we've yet to see that from any of these young guys. We saw it a little bit with Roansy in 2022 when he first got the call up, and even in those early stages of 2023. But after that, he kind of fell off the edge there, and he was yet to be seen throughout the rest of that year. So yes, there are a lot more expectations. Yes, this team should be better and should be on their way to competing for that spot. I still think they should have made a couple more moves to help better solidify that type of movement and that push towards that goal. But it's going to be yet another exciting season of Pirates baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the way the Pirates do things. You go back to the early 2010s when they were making the playoffs. They got a couple veteran pieces in to supplement things, especially on the pitching side of things. Make that note as we talk about what they've done this offseason. And they had all that homegrown talent, the Walkers, the McCutchens, the Martes, the Polancos, that they just waited for their time to come. Well, now it's time for all these guys that have been brought in as prospects that everyone's been licking their chops waiting to see what they can do. Now is the year where I think it's really time for them to step up and see what they can do. Can you trust these guys as the bulk of your production now? We saw Triolo get hot last year. We unfortunately saw Cruz go out with injury. How's he going to rebound? Peguero, Gonzalez, the list goes on and on. There's so many young faces on this team, particularly in the infield, so much so that some guys are, getting thrown around in some trade rumors we've heard and whatnot. This is a team that should have some good young depth, and their starting core should be mainly comprised, of young homegrown talent. And hopefully it all works out because this town is ready for the Pirates to make it back to the playoffs. God doesn't need, you don't need me to tell you that. God only knows, but you want to see something this year. As low as expectations usually are each year, this is where, has the last roughly decade, a little under a decade of waiting, going back to what the early 2000s was like, was all of this waiting now? Are all these guys going to step up and do what we've been waiting for them to do? So again, you're not too surprised if the Pirates don't do well, but at the same time, it's going to sting a bit if things don't materialize this year, because I think, as you said, Ethan, the wild card game, if they don't make it in, it should be close. It should be within reaching distance those last couple weeks of the season, or else I think this year's a complete, very eloquently said by myself there. But anyway, Pirates have made some moves this offseason. As recently as a few days ago, they brought in Yasmani Grandal and Josh Fleming. So a veteran catching presence there for a catching core that is interesting. Not a much better word to use. And then to help a rotation / early side of the bullpen that is up in the air. So those phrases might get thrown around a lot this season. But, the Pirates bring in Ali Sanchez. They have Jason DeLay. They have Henry Davis. They were going to have Endy until they didn't have Endy. So there were those questions, though. Who's our everyday catcher? Can we trust Davis here after he played right field last year? He struggled with the bat pretty mightily last year as well when he got called up. Can we trust Davis? What if he doesn't pan out? They kind of answer that question by bringing in Grandal. Especially on the defensive side. I think he only hit 234 last year. You're not expecting much of him from the batting side of things, but defensively, you have someone who can go in there every day with all that experience and hold his own. Fleming sounds like he's going to be they need to plop in a guy in the starting rotation. He'll be the guy. And if not, he's going to be more of a long reliever kind of role. I don't mind it. Had some injury issues. Hasn't had a ton of time to prove himself at the MLB level. But you know what? We'll see what happens. Again, a phrase that we're going to throw around a lot tonight. But I don't mind either of these signings. I feel a little bit better about the catcher situation. But Ethan, I've just been rambling, so why don't you touch on these signings for us?
No, I think for the Grandal signing, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Obviously, with where they were at right now, I mean, you got Jason DeLay, who's still on the younger side. He's the veteran guy in that catching group, but still, you were looking for that Austin Hedges mentory type of guy in that catching role, and the Pirates didn't have that. So signing Grandal, yes, you have four catchers on this roster now. And I know it's been thrown around, especially today. It was shown that Henry Davis could be starting in AAA and trying to redevelop him there and try to work out some kinks, especially on the defensive side, and trying to work that bat back up to where he wants it to be, the team wants it to be, especially after missing some time at the end of the year due to an injury. I believe it was a hand or a finger injury last year that knocked him out for the rest of the year. So signing Grandal, I don't mind the signing. He's a veteran guy. He can eat innings behind the dish for you. Obviously, hearing Shelton on yesterday, it kind of makes me uneasy to see where this catching situation, especially with Davis, is going to go. It looks like they're going to lean more on Grandal for the bulk of those innings and put Davis back in right field. And that's fine, at least for, the first month or two of the season, but you just got to throw this guy at least to the fire. At least if he starts the year in AAA, you need to at least bring him up and give him an actual shot. He caught, I think, one or two innings behind the dish last year. That was all. One game. I believe it was against the Diamondbacks. He got one inning behind the dish. At some point, you drafted him one on one. First overall, first round. You got to give him a shot behind the dish. This is part of the reason why you drafted him. Not only because of his bat, because he has a plus bat. He has a great bat. But even though his fielding is not up to par and not as good, especially even though everyone in the organization, everyone outside of the organization knew that his fielding was not, going to be that top-notch fielding, like top Gold Glove catchers fielding like a Yadier Molina, even like Salvador Perez, guys like that. He's still a guy that you want behind the dish. I don't think it will take that much away from his bat. I just don't see him fitting well long-term out in the outfield or even at first base. I just don't see that happening. And I think at some point, especially this year, this is your year to finally just put him out there, put him behind the plate, and just see what happens. Because you can't keep, shifting around the lineups, keep shifting Davis in and out behind the plate, into right field, behind the plate, into right field. Even if Grandal is getting those, getting more time behind the plate, I just feel like you need to have Davis, who's still, he's not young. He's not a young guy. He's 24, 25 years old now. So he's not young in terms of a prospect anymore. Yes, he's still young in terms of major league experience, but now it's like the clock is really starting to tick. He's getting older. He's getting older now. So that clock's ticking. They need to figure it out, and they need to figure it out throughout spring training. You need to give him ample time behind the plate during spring training to really see, is he going to work out behind the plate? Because they've just botched his development throughout his time that he got called up to right now. And just is he going to start? Is he not going to be behind the plate? Just all of that has just been a mess. And he hasn't gotten the amount of work that he needs, especially at the big league level. Even just working out, he's more focused on working out in the outfield than he is behind the plate, which we saw last year. So with that all being said, let's talk a little bit more about Fleming. Now,
that was only part one.
Yeah, that was only part one. I don't have much to add about Fleming. He was all right. He was all right last year, 4.70 ERA. Obviously, Nick, like you said, I think he could be that. He only got 3 starts last year, so he's definitely going to be that long reliever type guy to shore up the back part of that bullpen. Obviously, not the starter that a lot of people were looking for in terms of the Pirates getting one more guy to really solidify that starting rotation. They still have a lot of young pieces in that starting rotation. I think adding one more guy with some good major league experience that has had success as a starter will be key moving forward if they can land that guy. At this point in spring training, I don't know. I don't know if it will happen, but Fleming, I think, yeah, like you said, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to come out of the bullpen more than he will starting. Maybe get a spot start here and there. Like the Pirates did with Bailey Falter, Bailey Falter last year. So I think having a guy like Fleming, he's a younger guy. I think he can eat some innings out of the bullpen. And I think really the Pirates are really trying to bolster that back half of the bullpen so they don't have to rely on the starters as much. Obviously, they got Mitch Keller, Quinn Priester, JT Brubaker's back, trying to load up the back half of that bullpen. So if those starters struggle, they have that solid bullpen that can, eat innings up and really have some success that we have seen this bullpen have, especially last year with Dauri Moreta, David Bednar, Colin Holderman, even Carmen Majinski, those guys like that. Having them back will definitely be crucial, and I think adding Fleming to the mix will definitely help, especially eating those innings up in the earlier stages of the game.
Yeah, the whole pitching staff is just very intriguing to me. There's so much that can happen. There's so many camp invites. There's so many guys who could potentially fit in those 4, maybe 5 starting roles. It's a toss up, I think. And I mean, we're not. You mentioned him earlier. We haven't even considered. Does Roansy Contreras have a bounce back year? What's going to happen with Brent Honeywell? I know he was. I believe he was a minor league deal technically, but that's a guy who there's a lot of promise when he got drafted. What happens to Bailey Falter? What happens to Quinn Priester? He didn't do too well last year. He was good for basically 4 runs a game against them. They've moved a lot of guys around last year. There's a lot of talent this year. And again, some guys returning from injury, as you mentioned, like Brubaker. There's only 5 rotation spots. I'm not sure what's going to happen, and I'm kind of on the verge of thinking Roansy might be the unfortunate one who bites the bullet here, because he is out of minor league options. So, he's going to have one chance, I think, and if not, he's going to become trade bait for cash considerations, knowing the Pirates. But just so much to keep an eye on, because they took a chance on a lot of these guys. Every time they sign one of these pitchers, you're like, oh, he's going to be a eat innings kind of guy, or he's going to be first out of the pen. And then you kept waiting for them to kind of sign a very clear, not even a 1-2, maybe a 3-4 pitcher. And at best, they signed a 4 pitcher. They have Gonzalez, they have Perez, and then they accompany those 2 who aren't going to shock the world. I don't think you're expecting too much out of them. They accompany them by just inviting guys on minor league deals, camp invite, whatever. It left a little to be desired, that starting rotation. So is that an ode to the young arms they have, that they think these guys are going to get it all straightened out and everyone's going to have a career renaissance like Mitch Keller did last year? I don't know. We'll see. And speaking of Mitch Keller, what's to say he didn't have a classic random Pirate who builds a career off of one good half of a season? Hi, Jay Hay. Just kidding. Josh Harrison, one of my favorite players of all time. But, the jury's still out kind of on Keller. He did well last year and everyone said, give him the money, show him the money. That's one good year after a string of very, I don't know if this is the guy that we think he was going to be. So, and that's not me predicting he's going to be bad, but the jury's out on how this team can develop pitchers too, which is why people trying to say Paul Skeens needs to get up here as soon as possible is a little worrisome to me, because we've not seen them develop pitchers that too well as of late. But I'm putting all my money on the Contreras train. I hope he comes back with a good rebound year, and I hope we see him reach that potential that we once thought he could have. But Ethan, a lot more going on in the pitching rotation, because the Pirates might or might not, definitely weren't. It's all rumors. It's all bloggers and podcasters like us starting rumors. But actually, wait, no, it's true. No one knows. Are they actually in the hunt for Edward Cabrera of the Marlins? We don't know. Allegedly, Ji-hwan Bae was thrown out as a potential piece of the puzzle to bring him in. There was someone saying Ke'Bryan Hayes was going to be involved in a deal. I don't believe that to be true for a second. But the fact of the matter is, this all seemed to be rumor, hearsay, whatever. So much was happening on Pirates Twitter that it became hard to determine what was actually truthful, what was fake. Who knows what's going on? But then the Post-Gazette put out a pre-write this morning saying the trade was going to happen. And then they said, sometimes we pre-write things, so it goes out. We don't know how this actually happened, because it wasn't supposed to go out. But in case it does happen, then we have something ready. And then as the rest of the day unfolded, there was no trade for Edward Cabrera, who's a talented young pitcher, good velocity, wild, but another guy who I think would be nice to take a chance on. They've taken a chance on some pitchers where you go, what is the point? But this one, there's a lot of upside there. But Ethan, can you recap? I'm not going to ask you to recap. What do you make of this, I guess, is the better question.
So Pirates Twitter got Domingo Herman one day Edward Cabrera the next day, the pre-write today. Just things have just been off the rails for Pirates Twitter. And it doesn't even directly correlate with the team. Yes, there's been trade talks and everything like that, but it doesn't even directly correlate with the team. It's just crazy how, and it might just be from the inside and just being wrapped around all of this and just being, and just following this team. But I don't think there's a fan base on one particular social media platform that is this, like, I guess this involved in just this on top of just every single little moving part. And like you see this with, the memes after the Pirates win and just everything like that. And just like this cult following of sorts from all of these different guys, all of these different Twitter accounts and different blogs and what have you. It's just crazy to see just everyone just jump on top of just one. What was it? The Pirate. Who was the person that first talked about that trade? Was that what was it? Pirates Rants or something like that?
I thought that's who it was.
The Pirates Rants account. I think that's what it was. And just everyone right away just jumped on to the bandwagon and says sources like, Nick, we're just two Joes talking.
We are. In case that hasn't been clear from hearing us talk so far.
For the past, like, how many years? But we don't have, like, really great source. Like, we know people, but we don't have those.
We know people who know sources.
Right. We know people who know sources, but we don't have, like, sources that, guys, Edward Cabrera is coming to the Pirates. They're trading G1 Bay, Nick Gonzalez, Key Brian Hayes, and a player to be named later. No. But one blog posted, then everyone else on Pirates Twitter jumps all over it. Oh my gosh, this is happening. Like, oh my gosh. And nothing comes of it. Then you get the pre-write yesterday, or you get the pre-write today from the Post-Gazette, which I don't even think that was the Post-Gazette's website. It was like their website.
Yeah.
And I think Jason Mackey kind of clarified all of that early in the morning because this came out at like 6 a.m. And he was confused. He didn't know what the hell was happening because it was a pre-written story and wasn't even, I don't even think, linked directly to the Post-Gazette. It was the Post-Gazette, but it was like some other site that's, I guess, linked, and there was like their app, download the app and all of that.
And in case you've made it this far, let me clarify what happened here, okay? I can't say this is the same. Again, I've written for like one or two places that would actually have the sources to do this. One of which was when Watt needed an extension. I believe that was it. Maybe a tag or an extension. I can't remember. Whatever it was, is when something is likely going to happen. You write a lot of the skeleton information. So-and-so resigned today. You leave blank for what the terms are. You dump all the stats in. It's ready to go. You just need to fill in the nitty-gritty details when it happens. That's how you get it up quickly, how you get the page views, yada, yada, yada. So I'm assuming what happened here is this was rumored. I didn't read the article. It was dashed long before I woke up. I'm assuming what this case was, okay, the Cabrera stuff's heating up. Let's write something quick. Pirates trade for Edward Cabrera, yada, yada, yada. Here's his stats. Here's what he does well. Here's what he doesn't do well. Okay, when this happens, we're good to go. Plug and paste some of the other details in. I'm assuming that's what happened here. It wasn't like Mackey was doing some horrendous reporting job, pre-writing something, praying it was going to happen. Like, it was a calculated thing that happens often.
No.
And it's something that kind of takes away some of the gritty work you have to do when the news does break. So you're not scrolling the reference page going, he had a 4.22 ERA or whatever the stats are. You have all of it ready already. It wasn't like it was some kind of half-assed reporting job by Mackey. And I would like to make that clear because I do think Mackey's one of the best Pirates writers there is.
Right. I completely agree. And yeah, that's what people do, especially when there's trade rumors. Like you said, Nick, just They write basically everything that they know at the moment. Then they'll update whenever everything becomes official and their sources confirm it and they post it up. That's exactly what happened. There's no like, oh, why is this story out? Why did this come out? Like, what the heck is going on? And I think that's what part of Pirates Twitter doesn't grasp, because they're not into, the actual journalism, field journalism realm of things and how things get done within the industry. So they see that and just jump all over that. But no, it gets pre-written, and I guess there was some glitch in the system that got posted in the morning, and that was that. And yeah, I was able to read bits and pieces and screen grabs of it, and there was really nothing there egregious. It was just, this, like you said, Nick, the skeleton of that, that trade and the rumors that were going on at the moment, and that would be updated later. And here we are. But just, yeah, what a crazy couple of days for Pirates Twitter. And I think even the writers like Jake Krause, I know Mackey even as well, just saying like it's been one of the craziest days in Pirates Twitter like ever, just because of everything that's gone on and all the commotion that's been. The Pirates Rants account deleted his freaking account after the rumors because I guess they were deemed to be not true at the moment, so he just deleted his account because he was getting so much fire over it. I mean, it's just been wild. And like I said, baseball season's back. Wouldn't be baseball season without some drama in Pirates Twitter land.
It's been crazy between the rumors and what's true, what's not true, all the names being thrown around, all the people they keep signing. There's a lot going on up here. But we can summarize it by saying, who needs to have a good spring for Pittsburgh? One of mine's Roansy Contreras. I already talked about him, so that means it's Ethan's turn.
You know what? I think Mitch Keller needs to have a good spring. Obviously, we saw him in the first half of the season really pitch well. He got the all-star nod for the Pirates along, I believe, with Bednar last year. So, but that second half of the year, he was really down. Had a few good starts here and there, but really wasn't anything too crazy. So I think he needs to come out and really just once again, just solidify himself as that ace for the Pirates, and just really continue to show why he was one of the best pitchers on that staff last year, and how he can continue to grow and develop those skills and really solidify himself as that top option in that rotation for the Pirates. I guess position-wise, I think O'Neal Cruz, coming off of that devastating injury early in the year, had a ton of time off. Where is he at? Especially with his mobility, with his speed, that was very crucial and lethal, especially for this Pirates team over the course of the 2022 season. And the early parts of the 2023 season. How does he rebound? How is he adjusting to everything back? How is he catching up the speed? I think, this spring is going to be very crucial for him to really get back on track and really showcase what he did in those early parts of the 2023 season, where he showed so much promise so early on. Obviously, it was a small sample size, but I think having him back and having him put together a solid spring will definitely answer a lot of questions there, especially with that shortstop position there. And also, Jared Triolo, he had a very solid year last year as a utility guy. He's going to be one of those utility guys this year. I think the Pirates that will turn to a lot. And really, if he wants to solidify his roster spot, I think he's done a pretty good job, especially filling in for the void for Ke'Bryan Hayes, being able to defend well. He's been able to play multiple positions as well. That's really helped his cause. So just really showcasing his bat again, which he showed some flashes last year, being able to, put together a pretty solid spring will definitely, sure up that utility spot on this Pirates 25, 26 man active roster heading into the year.
Geez, Ethan, thanks for leaving a lot of people for me to talk about. The entire outfield, not named
Yep.
Brian Reynolds. Reynolds is safe. You don't need me to tell you that. Jack Sawinski's got that long ball ability. I think we'll see him every couple days, even if he's not deemed a starter. But we have Olivares, we have Palacios, we have Connor Joe. There's a lot of, a lot of gray room in that outfield. Who's going to start? Who's going to get the majority of reps? Again, I can see them kind of rotating guys quite frequently, but everyone's got to make a case in the spring. Who's going to be the guy who gets more of the reps? Who's going to get more starts out there? We'll see. So I'm going to keep an eye on the entire outfield situation because I think the infield, they kind of know. I think Peguero's going to get the nod at second. That sounds like that's the early chatter coming out of camp. Triolo's probably going to be a bench guy, a very good bench utility piece, as is Ji-Hwan Bae most likely. The infield's pretty set, I think, but in terms of who's going to get the more regular play in the outfield, I think that's kind of in the open right now, Ethan.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the outfield and just how they're all going to function and work out, especially Sawinski. Strikeout numbers are pretty high for him, and he's really a home run or bust type of guy. Obviously, he has that power stroke, but I'm just really interested to see how he kind of turns this year, especially after the year that he had last year, where he was able to showcase that power stroke, but really not much of anything else. I think he's really the guy that I have my eye on in that outfield.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's a little more pressure on him. Again, I mentioned that the social media team loves him. The team likes to market around him, I think, a little bit, but there's a lot of new pieces they can plop in this year in those outfield spots, a little more depth than I think they've been accustomed to having. So it's interesting. And Kutch can always go out there if they need him to. He's going to be a DHer, but with a lot of young talent on the bench, you have to think they might throw them randomly in just to get some reps at the plate. I don't know. I'm not Derek Shelton, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that whole outfield situation. Don't you love spring training? You can say stupid things, and as long as you say something remotely coherent, not always a guarantee with me, but people have to at least go, all right, you tried to justify it. There is no justifying the ugly jerseys that have been rolled out. I've never had an issue with Fanatics. I don't buy authentic air quote jerseys. I buy t-shirts, jerseys, whatever. Jerseys rarely. Nothing I bought from Fanatics I've ever thought was bad. Usually I have discount codes or whatever too, so it's nothing I really pay much mind to. But I always saw people hating on them quite extensively online before. And I was like, yeah, I've never had an issue. Maybe it's just they're the only place you can get jerseys now. So obviously people are going to have an issue every once in a while. And those people are louder than the people who are like me and just, it's a shirt. But then I saw the new MLB jerseys. And I don't know if the CEO of Fanatics is religious, but he should be in the confessional right now, apologizing to his local priest for what he did to and I mean this wholeheartedly, the nicest uniforms in sports are the MLBs, the stitched on jerseys, the stitched on logos, the stitched on names. MLB jerseys look very distinguished, classy, but not in a way where it's like, oh, I can't believe they're playing in that. Like, they look well made. They felt well made in the couple authentic jerseys I do have. Like, baseball players always look good in those jerseys. So imagine my surprise when I see these heat-pressed, half-assed little pieces of cloth on my favorite players in these videos. The names were decreased in font size by like 50. I saw a picture today of Justin Verlander. His name barely fit because they arc the name so much now for no reason at all. I'd love to see Edwin Encarnacion. I'd love to see if his name could fit on there. They look bad. They look like someone said, a lot of people have said, they look like DH Gate jerseys. If you know, you know, DH Gate. And they do.
Even,
They look
even
really
even some of the DHK jerseys look better than that. At least they don't decrease the font size to 2
and
for
still
the
not have
names
room.
and still not have room. But oh my gosh, are they hideous? Just look. I didn't even know like this was a thing. I didn't even know Nike handed the key over to Fanatics to produce their jerseys. But oh my gosh, I saw one today of the Brewers, one of the Brewers guys, and it like the numbers itself just looked faded.
Mm-hmm.
The name looked faded from the actual jersey. It's just it's disgusting.
Apparently, they're more breathable, though, Ethan.
But even people are saying that it's not comfortable, that it's not more. You can't move around as well, even though that's what FedEx claims that those jerseys are supposed to be better at now than when Nike produced them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some. I have I think one authentic Nike jersey, and it's a nice jersey. It's a good quality jersey. My first one, and just to see how Fanatics messed and tweaked with that, and it's too late to change it now. Like the season's already starting. They're going to be playing next week in these jerseys. They're ugly, and there's nothing's going to change this year. It's just something that's going to be an eyesore the whole season, and just something that, especially when a lot of people had problems with the MLB moving from Majestic to Nike in before the 2020 season, they're going to be even more fed up now with Nike handing the key over to Fanatics to produce their jerseys, and Fanatics just basically just phoning it in and shrinking everything. It's not an easy sight to look at for the eyes. It definitely hurts them.
Remember when Nike said, "Hey, we're going to put a really small Nike logo right here, just a Nike logo right here," and the Yankees fans acted like they were going to put the most offensive image ever on the. You're ruining our tradition. You're ruining our heritage. What the hell do you think you're doing? What do you think now? This is their fault. I think this is all the Yankees' fault. They had to complain about the Nike swoosh, and now they lost the jerseys as a whole.
At least they don't have to worry about the names on the back, though.
You're right. Hard to have ugly names on the back. They're probably going to make the font like this big. Just the most obscene font you've ever seen in your life. I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough look. It's a very tough look. I'm going to clutch on to the jerseys I do have and thank them. I miss Majestic, is what it really comes down to. I'm going to miss Ethan too, because Ethan hasn't seen this yet. But unfortunately, it's time for last call.
Ooh.
There we go. There it is. I didn't see it for a minute there. There it is. Time for last call. Ethan, what do you got?
Well, Saturday, I will take the trek up to Wexford to watch some history being made. First ever WPIAL Girls Wrestling Individual Championships for high school wrestling just officially got sanctioned earlier this year. North Allegheny was actually the first teams to officially sponsor a girls wrestling program in the state. And now it's grown to, I believe, 125 different schools over these past couple of years. I believe it really started to push during COVID. Bob Bazzuto, the athletic director at North Allegheny, has really, been a big believer in this. PA Wrestling as well, really pushing this and getting these girls wrestling teams sanctioned in Pennsylvania. I did some work and some research for a story for one of my classes in college last year for it, and now getting a chance to cover the first individual championship for girls is just going to be just a wonderful sight to see, especially for the growth of girls wrestling across the country and across the state of Pennsylvania. And I think it will just continue to grow from here. Obviously, no team championships like they have on the boys' side, but getting that individual championships for the first time ever because, there's schools that are sanctioned. They needed 125 schools, I believe. They got them and even more this year. So just seeing that is a wonderful sight to see for the sport of wrestling that not a lot of people really know about or look into about over the course of the year. They look for, basketball during the winter months of the year, even high school hockey at some points as well. Those being the two sports that are really highlighted across the board during the winter. So girls wrestling, first time ever on Saturday.
Ethan can watch some history.
Yeah.
Fun thing to do. I'm going to watch history too. No, little different kind of history in Daytona, Florida. Daytona Beach, Daytona 500. You got to love it. Just some guys in machines zipping around the track 200 times. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. I love NASCAR. I take all the lumps people give me for it, but it's fun watching a historic sporting event every year. I'm going to be watching again this weekend. I'm going to watch it right when we're done with this. They're doing the duels for qualifying right now. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun weekend for Ethan, fun weekend for me. Hopefully this show, head to head, Ethan was on it. Ethan exceeded all expectations. He did a damn good job. You're going to want to go check that out too. Head to head, episode 1, Stranded Sports Trivia Show. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. We are pushing the envelope by doing things other people have done, but maybe better, but maybe not. We'll see. Thanks for Thanks for joining us. That's how you speak English. I need to get this light out of my eyes. If you were here last week, you remember this bright ass light shining in my eye. It's doing it again. But anyway, thanks for joining us for Stranded in Pittsburgh. The Pitchers and Catchers special. Thank you.